Hello, one. Hello, all. Welcome to this hour 24 of the Creepy Channel Crawl 2019 IMCP of WILIscredia. Joined, as always, in these things by Dino of the Late Late Horror Show. Dino, say hi.
Hello, how are you guys doing? And
Well,
thanks for having me on with you, CP. I appreciate it,
oh,
especially talking about this old school horror.
well, this is something we do normally. This is we have the this isn't the book in question, but the 1001 movies you must see before you die. We do a series based on it. Although even though this says sci-fi, we're covering horror. Trust me. Why don't we all just take a minute to relax here, because it's hour 24. So what, Dino? I know you've been in and out. I've certainly been in and out. I took a nap. What have you noticed anything about the stream so far, or the crawl, should I say?
I guess first thing that hits me is there's been a lot of new people that I've come across, so that's kind of a good thing. Yeah, I mean, I think me and you both know a lot of the people in the community and on the Creepy Crawl itself.
Yeah.
I think I know almost every channel that rolled out this year, and sub to them all if you guys want to. But in the chat itself, a lot of new faces, a lot of new channels, and heck, that first hour I was clicking on so many people.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this looks interesting. This looks cool. So, yeah, I subbed to quite a few new people, and anxious to see what they put out. So,
Yeah. A shout out to some marathon men. There's 3 or 4. I think it's 4, where it's Maven, Ben. Shit, I apologize. The other 2 I'm forgetting, but have been in every hour, just chugging along with the crawl, which has been quite incredible. A lot of different. You have a lot of different styles over this, and that's the neat thing, seeing all the different personalities in the community.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
we're here. You guys want to take a breath and relax, because we're gonna talk about one movie and one movie only for this full hour. So on the 1001 movies you must see before you die, we basically kind of highlight whether it be a category, a director, a genre. But today we're doing a spotlight on The Invisible Man.
Excellent. Yeah, we're waving.
Oh, you're waving to people in the chat? Is that
Yeah,
what's going on?
when I look at the camera, I'm looking at the audience.
Oh, okay.
So,
Not me.
well, you're on the screen. The camera's the audience. So there you go.
Yeah.
Which is right above, right below. So says Stranger Things.
So
yeah.
This movie obviously is in the 1001 movies you must see before you die. Dino, I hadn't seen Invisible Man until about a week ago. Why don't you tell us your connection to this movie?
Well, congratulations first off for watching the movie.
Thank you.
And hitting some of the black and whites.
Yeah.
I do know you enjoyed Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein
I did.
better,
I did.
which technically I do too.
Yeah.
But when you get down to the nitty gritty, there you go.
It's funny that there's more than 5 of these damn things. That's what shocked me.
Right? Oh,
There's
yeah.
a bunch of, like, Universal was just chugging
They
away.
capitalize
man.
on, yeah. I mean, you get 4 for Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein. I mean, so yeah. I mean, they continue on. Only 3 for Creature. But yeah, the Invisible thing. They've even got the Invisible Ray. There's other movies out there, but nevertheless, this movie, I mean, definitely. Oh, I'm not going to say it's the first one that I've seen that made me fall in love with the old black and whites, because it may have been Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, or technically Frankenstein itself. But this movie, early 30s, 1933, directed by James Whale, and he has this style to his movies, and he's only done 4 horror movies. He's mostly known for his drama, his romantic films. Some musicals, died a little, having issues with Universal itself. I think the fact that he lived his life being out as a gay man, kind of kind of hurt him
Oh, in
a
that
little
day
bit.
and age, sure.
Yeah, with the studios, but very out there, and I think it limited him to what he could do. But thank God he hit these movies. The four horror movies that he hit up was he directed Frankenstein, which technically was his second film. I do believe that he directed, but he was also known for acting, doing theater in England. And but Frankenstein 1931 was his first Universal film that he did.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're talking about Invisible Man, but I'll get to it.
No, it's fine. We have an hour to fill, so take
Yeah.
a breath and because we're at different ends of the spectrum here for the discussion. So it's
Right.
good.
Yeah, we're going to debate this a little bit in a few, but not to say that CP hates it.
No,
but,
not at all, not at all.
But his second film, which is technically my favorite film by James Whale, The Old Dark House, 1932, stars Boris Karloff, who Boris Karloff almost played the Invisible Man in this film.
And his role in that is kind of an homage to Frankenstein, isn't it? Isn't it kind of doing a Frankenstein-y type deal? Boris Karloff in that film you just referenced?
Oh, you mean in The Old Dark House?
Yeah, a similar type character.
Kind of your dumb, mute, individual
Big
who
dumb oaf.
who's very strong and can lift several men and throw them down the steps. But he plays that character to the T. I mean, that movie. I mean, it's got Charles Lawton, who's a fantastic actor too in his own right. Gloria Stewart, who also plays in The Invisible Man as Flora.
Yes, from Titanic. Yes.
Yes, she's Old Rose, who you would see in Titanic in years years later. James Cameron film. Another good film.
Little movie, you might have heard of it.
Yeah.
1997's Titanic.
CP, another thing that really gets me with these old films, again, and it's totally stupid for me even to bring up, but I'm an old soul. These women, like Gloria Stewart in The Day in 1933, what a beauty. I mean, just a beauty. The images in these movies in this decade, 1930s, is just so beautiful to watch for me. But anyways, we'll get to the decades of these horror movies and stuff like that. But did Bride of Frankenstein also in 1935. So those are kind of
pretty well established. Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and Invisible Man are pretty big deals. I mean, Universal threw them in a box set, so they have some faith behind those films.
And James Whale, I mean, to his credit, he did a fantastic job. I wish I could have seen him do more horror films with Universal, but again, for certain reasons, go watch a documentary. He wasn't allowed to do certain projects at certain times, and other people were given. It was a different day, a different era in films, and people got blacklisted. You can't do film.
There was a bunch of reasons. It was that. It was communism. It was a bunch of different reasons why. I just want to shout out Maven, who says, "What is this take a breath phrase you keep repeating? I don't understand." I've seen Maven every step of the way through this, and it's quite impressive. You could take a 10-minute nap, Maven.
Congrats, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
good for
impressive.
you. I had to sleep. But.
Congrats to the Horror Addicts and Gory for putting on yet another brilliant stream. Crawl, I keep calling it a stream, but it's a stream of streams. I just want to say thank you, because when this first happened, I probably should have said this up front. When this first happened last year, it was to help smaller channels out, and there was that big YouTube cut for monetization. And I think the Crawl helped
viewing
channels.
time.
Yeah, viewing time and stuff like that. I was one of the channels that was saved last year, and I can't say thank you enough. And I tremendously appreciate what is going on and what the Horror Addicts and Gory are doing. It's really neat.
Yeah.
And again, it's good to see all these interesting, just really different personalities come together.
Yeah, it's nice to see the community and Gory. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, for her. I wish I could have hosted this year, but I can't stream live.
You're not allowed.
I'm not allowed for another 70 days or something like that. But anyways, no, less than that. Anyways, But yeah, thank you. I mean, it brings the community together. It's all these communities on YouTube are just such small little support groups. You like to think that everybody supports one another, but it is what it is. But something like this brings people closer together,
Oh,
and
sure.
we all get along, and it's like wave the flags, we're all good.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But,
on our series, we cover films. The book is 1001 movies you must see before you die, and we basically go through a list, and we discuss whether or not we feel the film is must see. If you had to bring a suitcase with you, and that was all you had for the rest of your life.
to a desert island.
Yeah. Would this movie be in there? And so, I mean, Dino, you've made it pretty well known that you're quite a fan of this movie. This is sort of fresh in my head. I'll be completely frank. Watched it once, fell asleep after about half an hour. Watched it another time. Something got a little shrilly, and I guess I'll reference that right now. And that's Una O'Connor. And oh boy, does she just absolutely ham it up with her fucking. It's one thing to choose scenery.
She's a tremendous character actor.
Yeah.
I mean, actress of the period, and yeah, she's something else. But yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely took me out of it the second time, where I was just like,
Really?
right. Yeah, it was just
I
too
enjoyed that
much.
so much.
Yeah, and once I was able to like properly deal with it, I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to deal with mouth over here, but yeah.
Yeah. Una O'Connor plays Jenny, who is a pub owner and landlady for the Lion's Head, which is a local bar, which I love. CP, I love the Lion's Head. A bunch of men in their little Irish caps and stuff, like you got there, your little flat hat, sitting around drinking, all guys, and just living it up, playing the old piano in the corner and stuff like that. Just something I would just love to go back in time and be in that little, bar, which the Invisible Man eventually comes to and tries to get a room. But anyways, we're talking about Jenny and her squealing and the character that she...
Felix 199 super chat. CP smiles that can start wars. Yes, apparently it can. Thank you very much, Felix.
Yeah.
So about the bar, about Jenny, excuse me.
Yeah, Jenny is her and her interaction with her husband, who she's the boss, right? Jenny's the boss.
She's certainly the mouth, that's for certain.
Yeah, the landlady of the house. Her character, when she starts screaming like that, just I loved it. I just smiled. I couldn't get enough of it.
I'll tell you,
it was over the top.
I'll tell you a part
like
that I root for was when you have her picture in the far, like on the far wall, and he just chucks a drink or something right at the picture. I was like, yeah, you show her.
when she comes up and brings the mustard, he goes, "I don't want to be disturbed. Do not come up here again." And she goes down and forgot the mustard. I mean, don't ask me. I don't think he really needed the mustard, but I guess back in the day you needed mustard with everything.
A lot of interesting Hollywood British back then, where like they didn't really have British accents, but they were what's all this then? Like it's like, oh dude, you're not even close. It's just Hollywood British. It was quite like I said, the movie's almost 100 years old. Like that's something, if you have not seen it, it's like that's what I had to keep telling myself. This movie. Insert film here. This movie has come before it. It's done so many different things. Anything you know about green screen today, this movie did it first, and they did it in a way harder fashion. Where like,
well, what did they do? They didn't. They technically draped Claude Rains in a black kind of velvet suit to cover up every square inch of his skin, and filmed him against black velvet, giving that image to where like we get for this green screen today. So very unique, very
prehistoric. I mean, like, so the one thing that I was looking for is, at first I'll give credit to the movie. It felt like it was a movie from the 50s for me, but that could be my lack of proper black and white knowledge.
Totally, 100%. But yeah, go ahead.
Totally what? It's my lack
Oh,
of knowledge, or
yeah.
it
No, 100%. Because there's a feel to each decade
okay,
of movies,
okay.
and just because it's black and white, this is 30s. This
Well,
is what the 30s look like. At 40s, you start getting a whole different feel,
mhm.
mood to your, to the cinematography and all of that stuff. Felix again.
What, $1.99? CP's booty can create world peace. It's not the booty
Mm,
that can.
mm.
Thank you, Felix.
And and then you get to the 50s though, and it's all again. I'm talking not talking about topics because everything turns into like space age, science
Oh, sure.
fiction type movies. But there's a more of a grainy feel to. I don't know how they filmed the movies in the 50s, but it has more of a grainy feel to it.
Mm.
More pale colors
So
and a different tone.
I think part of what I was kind of trying to reference was the cinematography. Everything's very very stationary. It feels like if you watch, you know what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone. The way the cameras are set up are very
Right.
stationary. But again, this is what, a couple of years after silent films. So
Oh yeah.
they were really
Tinkering.
farting around with sound and things to do. Back then, it really wasn't about cinematography. It was about, just leave the camera and let's do funny shit in front of the camera. And clearly, go ahead.
Although they were tinkering with it even 1933, like even in this film The Invisible Man,
Oh,
when you
sure.
look at when you look at James Whale when they're in that the house with doctor the three doctors, whoever, I'll
Hmm.
get to them in a second,
Uh,
but they do the long shot all the way across the
yes.
house,
Yeah.
and that's the movement of the camera taking those and he does that in his movies. That's a very specific shot that he did early on. I'm not saying he's taking credit for it,
Yeah,
but
when
you
he
know,
when he first when the Invisible Man first gets to the bar, what's funny is they're both shot in profile, which is like
mm,
that's what I was trying to pick up stuff like what makes this stick out, and it was a shot that was they never did that shot again. Both Invisible Man and the bartender shot in profile, which was really kind of neat.
yeah.
I mean, against everything else that's done in the film.
And the more black and white films you watch of the era, you'll find out that so much tinkering went on. That especially you with the films. I think you went to
Film
school
school, yeah,
for
yeah.
yeah, yes. So so you would notice probably a lot more than I did watching a lot of these
Yeah, probably
films.
looking at it different eyes, which is
Yeah,
fine.
like there's a movie out there called The Bat,
Hmm.
and I did do a commentary on it a long time ago. I'm trying to think of the year it was made, but it was it was where they got the idea for Batman.
Oh, okay.
That's yeah, but they did some effects with the camera work, like dropping it from like
Oh.
2 stories up, down, just to get these certain effects.
Hmm.
Where the bat, the guy in his hat and his cape would crawl up into this doorway. Just the cinematography alone and the camera work for those shots are just unbelievable. And again, it's from them tinkering
Yeah.
in those early days, right after the silent era, when you could do that kind of stuff. So it's very cool, man.
Yeah,
It's
it's really advanced. So it reminded me of stuff that it's absolutely influenced, like 1,000%. Memoirs of an Invisible Man with Chevy Chase, which is directed
mm,
by John Carpenter, believe it or not.
yeah.
That has a lot of homages to this movie, and you could tell that it's very similar. A lot of stuff that is like. There's one point where Chevy Chase is. I'm waiting for the scene over my head. He's literally wearing the same exact thing, the same getup as the 1933 Invisible Man. There it is, and it's a clear homage. Something else where they took the technology and advanced it was 2000's Hollow Man, which starred Kevin Bacon, directed by getting too late,
Paul Bearer.
Paul Verhoeven, and they took the technology and threw CGI behind it, and really, again, these are movies that just do not exist without this movie. They take the idea and take it further, which what they tell you in film school is some of this stuff, you may not like it, but it's medicine. You may not enjoy it, but you need to know what it is for future stuff. And this is a movie that, Citizen Kane is like that. That's the line in the sand as far as film school is concerned. This is before that. And, revolutionary stuff before the revolutionary movie. So, there's a lot of stuff that any sort of green screen, you kind of owe it to this movie.
Yeah, so, agreed. King Kong did it too. I mean, they did a lot of, where you would see the dinosaurs down in certain scenes when he was in the cave, especially. Mm-hmm. They did all that with, black screen. That back in the day they would use black and white, to distinguish from the green screen type effect. So a lot of groundbreaking work came from these early years, especially the early 30s. And
like I said, I may not appreciate it, but I understand why it's important.
And hey, again, it's about being, there's people who won't even watch old black and white movies, horror movies, whatever. It's there's got to be a certain appreciation, whether it's something you grew up watching with your parents or grandparents. Like me, myself, somehow I'm an old soul. So I always gravitate towards the 30s, the 40s, those two eras, decades.
Old, though. What are you talking about?
No, I'm an old soul. So in my mind, I want to listen to jazz. I want to be in the speakeasy. I want to be, in the 30s. There's something about it. It's just intriguing to me, and that's what I'm talking about when I mean an old soul. So I don't know.
You want to pick up a couple of dames, maybe a bird?
Oh, I do. See? Yeah, come here, baby. Sit on my lap. Hey, yeah, and the girls of that era. I mean, they cover themselves up, other than pre-code, and they are just a look. They're just so beautiful. But anyways, we can move on. I was going to say another thing before we got off of James Whale there and stuff too. Oh, okay. He did. Towards the end of his life, when he was working on another Universal project, he started. He had some kind of dispute and did commit suicide by drowning in his own pool.
That's one way to do it.
Not sure I would do it that way, but anyways, and again, there's documentaries out there about him coming out and living his life the way he did, and the controversy that was around his lifestyle and stuff like that. But his lifelong companion eventually released the suicide letter, which wasn't there the day he died, but eventually got released, and they're like, oh, okay, so this was a suicide, not a an accidental death or whatever you want to call it. But again, you had to keep all that stuff underneath the rug back in the day.
Nice, happy story for the stream. Thank you, Dino.
Thank you very much. Yes.
So Maven brought it up before, and this is something that I found out just today in doing some homework for the stream, that it is adapted from a novel, and it's the first of the Universals to be really true to the book. Yeah, an H.G. Wells book. Apparently, not Universal, but the original Stoker wasn't too pleased with Dracula. I think Frankenstein and took liberties with, but this was apparently the first major Universal film that was adapted from a book where the estate from H.G. Wells is kind of content with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they definitely. The other movies, like you just said, I mean, they took liberties with the other projects, but whether James Whale himself just really wanted to stay true to H.G. Wells' story, did a great job, stuck to it, and it created a masterpiece in my mind. So
again, it's absolutely important, even if just for technical sake. I understand. There's other Universal classic monster movies or classics that I would reach for before this. We were talking about it before we went live. This movie feels a little hokey, a little too hokey. on top of the wretched batch screaming,
Well,
Um,
he loved to blend humor with the horror, so there is that. So
yeah.
he did do that in his films. So
Am I mistaken in this role? The Invisible Man is like most of the inspiration for Mark Hamill's Joker.
that's what I've heard too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's out there, so yeah, you can say that as fact. I mean, it is out there, so yeah.
You can say it. I don't know if you can say it as fact. Like
Well,
it's inspiration. Like
lots of rumors have just popped out of nowhere. So but yeah.
it does seem to fit though. There is a bit
Oh
of it
yeah.
there. Having some like perhaps it could even be the first inspiration for uh, Caesar. What the fuck? Why is his name slipped my mind? The Joker from the television series in the '66 movie.
Oh,
Caesar.
Caesar
Yep.
Caesar Romero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's some of that. Guy laughing, having fun, being a little evil.
Yeah, no, and they picked him Claude Rains for this role too because of his distinct
Yeah.
voice and being. I mean, the dude was wrapped up for 95% of the movie. You didn't
Spoiler.
even get to see his face until the very end.
Double spoiler.
Are we really spoiling something?
It's 100 movies
1932?
old, 100 years old.
Come on. But and I'll tell you, I mean, the ending scene alone. Well, okay, well, we'll eventually get to that. But I'm already jumping to the end. But no, Claude Rains. This was technically his second movie.
He had done theater before this, mostly.
Yes. I mean, and hell, he was big role in Casablanca. As Captain Louis Renault. Another masterpiece. Sorry,
Yeah,
people.
hey there.
I gotta
I
do
figured
that.
me to do that first. Danny, Horror Addicts, says, imagine if the internet was around when they made the Universal monsters. I don't know how far we would get. They would have stopped and restarted. If you think about the internet today and what they're changing and adapting because the fans aren't happy with something, I don't know how far we get with the Universal monsters if the internet was around for that. But real quick, because I'm going to forget, we were talking about it before, and I have the Universal box set that has everything that they did. We were talking about it before we went live, and I'm actually kind of fired up because there's an Abbott and Costello meet the Invisible Man movie that I feel like that fits more than I would be more
just plain old The Invisible Man.
right.
Yeah.
I would be more because it is a little hokey, it's a little silly, and knowing what I know about Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, that I had fun with. So
Oh, yeah.
to kind of see what again, I have no knowledge of it. I realize it's a 70, 80-year-old movie, and I need to catch up. But that kind of intrigues me more than anything. The fact that here is this pseudo comedic character meeting the comedy legends of the day, and that kind of turns me on a bit more than the idea of this first one.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of agree with you. I mean, you're not going to get no negativity out of me. I love Abbott and Costello. I love everything they do. I love the Colgate Comedy Hour where they were on TV in the 50s. They everything Abbott and Costello did was great. But the two three. They did Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde too, which it was at the end of their career, and I wouldn't suggest that for anybody wanting to go back and watch an Abbott and Costello horror movie. It's Meet Frankenstein, and then it's Meet the Invisible Man.
Well, their horror movies aren't really horror movies. It's
right.
It's comedy with a twist.
Yeah, and let's throw in these characters, and we were kind of talking about that before we went streaming. How I technically Meet Frankenstein. Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein is a perfect mix or blend of both the monsters and Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
And the characters themselves, and Meets the Invisible Man is a little bit more of Abbott and Costello and less of the Invisible Man, just because they were really trying to hit their career again, and keep it going. But let's grab the Invisible Man and throw him in there. I mean, they did that all the time back in the day. So but still a great film. And I do agree. It's curious. I'm not sure if I've seen the Invisible Man played straight. Was the Hollow Man kind of played straight with Kevin Bacon or
Yes,
not? Because I have
yes,
not seen it.
yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit more serious. It's a bit more of a
Mm,
thriller. Like he it's like knowing I saw Hollow Man first, and that's perhaps the wrong way to do things.
mhm.
There's similar beats in Hollow Man that there is to Invisible Man, except it doesn't. He's just he realizes he has all this power and he
Yeah.
lets it get to him. Whereas in Invisible Man in 1933, it's the drugs that are making him mad. What's funny is the classic idea of madman and crazy. They play it up to such a length where it's they really didn't respect mental health back then
No,
and
no.
everything about madmen and insanity like it we've come a long way because I don't know there's two things that I thought of when you were talking just now. First of all, Invisible Man wouldn't be it would be Hollow Man because they wouldn't make the drugs part of why he went
Right.
and two
Monocaine.
and two is you talk about the internet. If they tried doing a Kevin Hart meets Jason and Michael movie, that would like fucking think of a Louis
I'm not sure
C.K.
that would work,
meets
but
like it
uh,
wouldn't work today. People would not be on board for it. So to think of something like Abbott and Costello and these horror icons, and it was well received enough to have a bunch of movies. That's something that I really don't think would happen today because I know I don't want to see Jason in some movie with a comedian like that.
different time, different
Yeah.
era, and it worked back then. I mean, you got to think. I mean, we came right out of the silent era
Hmm.
into the 30s up through the 40s with all these comedy teams from the Marx Brothers to Abbott and Costello
Hmm.
to Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin, you name it. I mean, it just goes on and on. And to put them in those kind of movies that deal with horror and stuff like that and mix them together was easy back then. But yeah, again, nowadays I could not even fathom plopping comedians like that, and let alone I don't even think there's any comedic teams out there anymore. But
No.
yeah, it's a day gone by. It's something I miss, I love. They're still there. I keep revisiting them, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a product of a time where I don't think you could replicate it. Where Invisible Man is, they've been talking about it a bit in the chat. That is getting a remake. Lee Winnell, I think, is writing and
Yeah.
or directing it, and Blumhouse is putting it out. 2020, I think, is when it's coming out. Go ahead.
And I believe this is where we'll probably see a serious Invisible Man movie.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
you know,
probably.
let's see. I mean, you know how I am with a lot of these new movies and remakes and taking something so iconic and trying to do something with it. Again, nothing wrong with it. If it's good, it's good. But they always fail in my mind, for the most part. So I am looking forward to seeing, and I always say this, I'm looking forward to it, but yeah, it's probably going to be more serious, and it could still be good that way. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it.
Yeah,
Um,
so like something that again, not I popped it in, didn't know the year it was made. Genuinely, just dumb. I didn't know
mm,
much about the movie, but as I watched it solid through, I got a lot of another reason why I got like 50s vibes from it. The that communism subtext with the police telling people that they're thinking they see an invisible man, like
mhm.
telling people that no matter what happens, the authorities are going to tell you that something else is going on. Like that was a big communism thing, and to find out that it was before that in the 30s,
Oh,
it was surprising to see that something like that made back then was relevant then, probably way more relevant times like now with the internet and stuff. That's like if you want to do Invisible Man serious, have
yeah.
have something like that where
Yeah.
this social media, I don't know how the hell you include social media, but but the same kind
they
of
can do it.
yeah, the same kind of paranoia and anxiety we have like play into that with this. People.
Oh yeah, yeah. No. You say you get the '50s vibe with the communism and stuff, but I mean, the minute we were able to start filming, like the '20s, even the silent, all the way through the '30s and up, communism was a big part of the '30s. I mean, that whole. We're not going to get political on you guys, so don't worry about it.
No, just a
But
subtext. I'm not.
yeah, yeah. I mean that communism subtext was in a lot of the movies of the time period.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got all of the detective series like Sherlock Holmes, Charlie Chan, Mr. Moto. People probably like, who the fuck are you talking about?
When they gonna start talking about Jason?
These are the detectives films of the period, which I also say, if you love the old stuff, go watch these. Warner Oland, Sidney Toler, who portray Sherlock Holmes, Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes. These are fantastic films, but a lot of communism in those movies, and they were made starting in the early 30s too,
yeah.
and on through. So the misconception is that communism started in the films in the 50s or late 40s. No, it was. You can see it even in the silent films too.
Well, yeah,
but,
it's stuff that like it's funny how some of these, and again, subtext, not entirely something that's out in front and saying, hey, look, we're a big topic of the movie. It's layered in there. It's if you don't see it, it's not there. If you look into it, you're like, oh, that kind of seems like blank. And the great thing about great horror movies is that subtext where you can watch it as a monster movie. That's one thing. But if you dig a little bit deeper, they're actually saying something. George Romero, all those of the dead movies. Yeah, they're like about the '60s America and capitalism and all that stuff. So it's sure it's a great zombie movie, but a lot of these really, really good horror films usually have something a little bit extra to say, and they're not so annoying about it. Is the most polite way I can put it.
Right? No, 100%. I mean, it's subtext, very underlying, and again, people of the day understood it and saw it. We look at it nowadays and go, unless you're really digging deep, you go, okay, I see what they're doing there. I see what's behind the storyline. Sure. Can I throw something else out there too?
Sure.
About the Invisible Man, Dr. Jack Griffith. He was the most bloodthirsty villain of any of the Universals. Okay, we always talk about kill counts and stuff like that on YouTube. The horror community. The most kills in any Universal. By Jack Griffith.
Because of the train? That's not fair.
Well, oh, come on. Well, there were 4 murders on screen, okay?
Uh-huh.
Then there were the 18 off screen of the police officers who were killed. Uh-huh. And then there were the 100 from the derailed train. So that's 122 kills.
He didn't technically
from the Invisible Man.
He didn't technically kill them. He just kind of did a swip-de-doo on the tracks.
Oh, so you're not going to call that murder now?
No,
so the Jonestown murders. He had nothing to do with it. He didn't pour the Kool-Aid.
We don't have a horror movie about whatever the hell his name is, Jones.
Oh, there's movies out there
that have him as like the killer.
Yeah, I can't think of the name right now, but it doesn't matter.
I'll call
it
a gray area, but
anyways, okay, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like there's
maybe I'm stretching it a bit, but
I think the part of it that helps it is the fact that. Like, you're not really seeing somebody kill somebody. You're seeing like a flying broom. You're seeing somebody that looks like they're just jumping over a ledge. Like, I think that was part of why it was a little bit easier to do it that way, because you're not like seeing somebody get killed, but by the reaction of the person who's getting killed. Oh, something like and this is where like I was in and out. And again, somebody keep referencing it before. The style of acting back then is its own thing, which
you love it or you're like put off by it.
They weren't figuring out dramatics just yet. So a lot of it takes you out, some of it doesn't. But like there's stuff where he's pinching the police officer's nose and slapping him on the ass, and it's just like, come on, how am I supposed to take this serious? Like they're looking for this guy and he's pinching their ass, and and like so some of it like it's
pokey humor.
But again, they get away with it because you're not really seeing any real murder. And plus, I don't know if them pinching the cop's nose is one way of saying, it's fun death.
Well, the fun murder that you do see in there with the police officer who's in the lion's head, and falls down on the ground, and Dr. Jack Griffith, the Invisible Man, hits him on the head with some tray or something like that. It goes like this, boom.
Yeah, stool.
and he goes out and tells Dr. Arthur Kemp, one of the three doctors at the beginning. It was Dr. Kemp. What's the other guy? Dr. Cranley, who's the older doctor. Who I'm getting off topic here. Let me finish it real quick.
Good.
He goes off and tells Arthur Kemp, the guy who he's saying, "You do what I say or I'm going to kill you." I bashed his skull in, and looking at it in our eyes, where we've seen Saw, Jason, Michael, you're like, all you did was just hit his head with a flat object. How the hell did you bash his freaking skull in?
Yeah.
But that was the beauty of the 30s and the 40s. You get a kill, but they're not being so gory and upsetting with it. But
they give and take. Like when he steals the bicycle and gets off, and then he takes a broom and just throws that at him, and he's all salty and says something to the guy. It's just like, "Hey, have this," and it's just like, come on.
It was fun though.
No, I get it. Yeah. I just wasn't I'm thinking Frankenstein, Dracula, so I just wasn't properly prepared for it. So who knows with another viewing or something. Well, like I said, Abbott and Costello, I'm really kind of fired up to see that. But it's just, and it could be just that they're like, all right, we can give ourselves a little leeway because we're not actually showing anything, and we'll have a little fun with it so people won't really worry about the deaths. And Danny said before, I think the families of the victims would count. So fair enough. I didn't realize we were getting real world with the victims of these movies.
Yeah. And a little shout out to Henry Travers, who plays Dr. Cranley. He's the older guy. He's the father of Flora. I'm shouting him out because he is also Clarence, the angel from It's a Wonderful Life.
All right. So check him out. His channel's down below.
Who's that? What are you talking about?
You're doing a shout out. I just want to make sure that people.
Oh, yeah. I'm shouting out the actor, Clarence. He says, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. Hey, It's a Wonderful Life. One of Frank Capra, one of my favorite films of all time, too. Every Christmas, that goes in there. But I love Clarence. I love his portrayal in this. And he's done other films, too. But, had to shout him out there, CT.
Shout out. That's such a modern way to say. I know what you meant, but shout out is a very YouTube-y thing to say. Just a quick shout out to so and so.
Talking about an old school film, and I'm got some new school lingo going on here.
So, what did you think? Did you think his friend genuinely wanted to help him? There's the moment where he opens the window and he's trying to escape. The assistant or the other doctor.
Arthur Kemp, the other doctor.
Do you think that maybe they left that a little ambiguous to let you think that maybe he was afraid for his life, but he still did want to help the guy, the Invisible Man, Doctor?
I don't think so. I think it was opening the.
He was saving his own ass.
Yeah, to let him go out there and get caught because all the police officers were surrounding the house. And Arthur Kemp was he was a coward. I mean, technically speaking, he was a coward, a weasel. He went after Flora. This happens a lot in these old black and white movies from the 30s and 40s where there'll be two doctors involved with a beautiful dame.
A broad, see?
And when one is going off doing, same in Frankenstein, when one is going off doing his experiments and his whatever, the other doctor swoops in and tries to, I love you. Don't you know I love you? I can take you away from all of this. I mean, hey, and I love that. I love it. But Arthur Kemp was a frickin' weasel. He was moving in on Jack Griffith's woman, who really cared for him and hated the fact that she knew that this monocane and the experiments he was doing on himself was going to lead to his destruction, unless he would come back to her father, Dr. Cranley, and figure it out.
Right.
But at this point, he was too far gone.
He was too mad. Madman.
Yeah,
He was
too mad.
Yeah. So, spoiler, the way they end up getting him, well, they catch him, they shoot him, and he finally becomes visible there towards the end as he's dying and says goodbye to her. I don't have their names.
Poor Flora.
Yeah. So
Glorious. Yeah.
So remembering again, this is having the history first before you watch something that started it all. I knew as I was watching it that there's this thing with 5 movies inside, and the next movie is titled The Invisible Man Returns. So why don't you tell me what's Invisible Man Returns? How is that possible if this man's dead, or is it more of the same drug?
Well, it's more of the same drug, but monocaine is monocaine, and a little thing, if you go back and watch me and Ted's live commentary on The Invisible Man, I mean, I enjoyed what we did at the beginning. We did a whole monocaine thing where we had bandages around our head, and we took the bandages off with the monocaine in our system, and we disappeared on screen. That's awesome. And it was a really cool opening. Ted's kid got a real kick out of it and said, "How did you do that?" It was a fun thing we did. But going over to The Invisible Man Returns, different feel. I mean, it is 1940, but it's got Vincent Price in there. Different storyline. I didn't enjoy it as much as this one, of course, but still a very good movie. A little bit more serious than this one. But yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Gory in the chat is saying that her and Lols did a review of Invisible Man, and Lols dressed up as the Invisible Man as well. That is intriguing. I'm curious to check that out.
I think I remember you doing that. It was a while ago, I think, but no, it's and I'm glad that kids can get into these older horror movies. That inspired everything we got now. I mean,
sure. We kind of talked about it on Emily's stream, like stuff that you would use as like a gateway, and Gory spoke about it on the first hour. Stuff that you'd want if you wanted to introduce someone to horror. I would absolutely say something like this. These are, they're maybe not Invisible Man actually, because it's like you said, it's the highest kill count. But
right.
They could see that there's death and take it humorously. I don't think you would want a kid thinking that it's funny,
right,
for stuff like that. You want to respect, and with fear comes respect, and
right. And I think exposing children to the earlier horror films where you don't get to see all the blood and guts and gore, can ease them into present day horror. Not all of it, because I mean, Saul's just, right on, torture porn. But anyways, that's a separate issue.
Danny wants to know who is better, Claude Rains or Vincent Price?
I'm going Claude Rains, Danny. I'm curious, put in the chat if you liked Vincent Price better. I know you and Gory are both Vincent Price fans, which I am too. I'm a big Vincent Price fan. But when you're going back old school, I mean 30s, Claude Rains all the way. I mean, this dude
all the way.
I mean,
it's Vincent Price we're talking about. All like hands down, no thought about it.
For me, for the Invisible Man, that role, yes.
Okay.
Overall, I mean, Vincent Price has been in way more, horror movies in general, but better movies than Claude Rains. Claude Rains went on to do. He was great in Casablanca, but he played a totally different character. Everything he did after that too were mostly dramas, romantic movies of the era that I don't really get into, but I do enjoy at times. But for the Invisible Man, that role, Claude Rains just spot on. The voice all the way. And again, it was his second role. The first movie he ever did is just, irrelevant. But The Invisible Man, for being his second film and hitting this role, was just fantastic, spot on.
So something we do in this series is we discuss, I mean, we're about the 10-minute mark. We discuss whether or not the film is a must-see before you die.
I think we know how this is going.
I'll save my answer until the end. A little bit of hanging. I'll let you hang there. But Dino, why don't you let us know if you think this is a must? Is this going in your Stranded Island suitcase?
Yeah, I mean, again, when we do these streams, it is tough sometimes because there's so many Universal monster movies that I love. I mean, The Invisible Man is one of them, but we gotta narrow this stuff down to
you could curse. We're not PG here.
But I'm gonna say yes. It is a must see for me. Yes, 100%. I mean, it's so many things. Everything we've talked about puts it in that category. So yeah, you.
So like you said, like the theme of the series is you only have 1,001 movies. Like if this is it, it's must see. It's what you're gonna have the rest of your life.
And that's the thing. I can put so many of these older black and white movies in my must see and leave a lot of the newer present day ones out. So that's why I have a little bit more leeway. As where with you, it's probably a little bit different.
It's not a firm no for me. But it's probably a technicality because, like, again, this is a medicine movie, I would call it. You need to see it to understand where we've come and how green screening and those types of things. We take so much for granted these days with how effects are done and how CGI and things like that are done. But personally, I think there are different movies that have, the Memoirs of an Invisible Man. It's essentially a remake, does the same stuff, does it a little better. Just because The Invisible Man did it first, I don't know if that's like an automatic must see, but it certainly should. It counts, but must see, like you get into semantics for me where I don't know for this type of effect, the whole green screen effect, something like Memoirs of an Invisible Man, I would say does it better, but I would probably put that above this, a Hollow Man above this, believe it or not. But then again, there's the whole caveat is, well, why is this like this? How did we get this effect? And then you get into this discussion. Well, there was this movie that did it first and a long time ago, and that's The Invisible Man. Like Citizen Kane, I understand technically there's a lot going on with that movie.
Right. Yeah.
Do I really want to watch that movie ever again? Probably not. It's not must see for me. Xanadu. Okay. Thank you, Scuba Steve. Twice, 99 cents. Really appreciate it. But if you're like I'm putting it in a slim category, green screen. If you need like a sub genre of green screen movies, based on technicality, I would say yes, but only based on technicality. I don't think the movie is incredibly strong as a Universal monster movie. I don't think it's strong as a film.
How many Universal monster movies have you seen?
I've seen the big ones. I've seen Frankenstein, Dracula, Creature Black Lagoon, the Mummy, as well as Abbott and Costello. I would prefer Frankenstein. Like, I mean, now you're like nitpicking and like. I even like I know people that really don't like the original Dracula, but that's an even older movie where like they're just figuring out how to do stuff with sound. So there's a lot of quiet gaps in that movie, which I mean that's been the complaint.
100%. No, my point was really quick. Just I'm curious. 5 years down the road, like if you were to expose yourself to a lot more of these older movies, if your
Yeah,
perception would change on things. But
and it does it's certainly up for debate because, like I said, I gave it credit for being a 50s movie, so perhaps I watched stuff from the 40s, the 30s, and I realized that this movie is a little ahead of its time. I mean, shit, credit is due for it be like we talked about before. The subtext, it has something to say. I just perhaps this could be one of the first horror comedies ever, and I don't know if I like again. You get into like all these subgenres. Shaun of the Dead is the horror comedy for me. So like
right.
and again, like you get into this big chicken and egg thing. Well, you wouldn't have this movie without this. This movie is so important for green screen and that effect. And I understand. It's not a hard no for me. I'm not saying no. It's not must see, but I need to like really get technical about it.
No, I hear you. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah.
It's not a hard no, but that's me. If you enjoyed our discussion, please sub both of us because we will have. We usually do directors or genres, but we'll certainly do spotlights on movies in the future with the 1001 films you must see before.
Yeah, this was fun, CP.
Yeah. We've done this before. We've never done a full film like this before.
Right.
Dino, what do you got coming up on your channel?
Believe it or not, for the first time,
I don't believe it.
My favorite film. We're going to do a full commentary on Rosemary's Baby, 1968, this coming week. Once we're able to go live on Tuesday nights, we will do that every Tuesday night. But expect that this week and probably more. So surprises to come.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Again, I think John Carpenter is what we're doing next, right? For 1001.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what we talked about last time.
If not next, John Carpenter is coming up soon in a debate like this. On my channel, the Who Would Like That for Audition is coming up soon. The next hour is the Hellhounds of Horror. Hour 25, baby. You're almost there. Again, the link is down below, and why don't you go ahead and watch this video to close. Dino, why don't you say goodnight for me?
Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining me and CP.
You're watching the Creepy Channel Crawl, 28 hours of horror live streams featuring some of the creepiest channels on YouTube. Up next is Hellhounds of Horror. Click on the link in the description and continue the crawl. And for the full schedule, check out the Creepy Channel